Scanning for audio.
Welcome to another Tin Dog podcast, where I'll be talking about the new DVD release from the BBC, or to entertain, The Ark.
Dodo! It's really very strange.
Birds from Africa, a snake from Brazil, and now an elephant from India.
Where do you think you are?
Just outside London. It's called whip snake.
Strange report from the jungle. The Monoids acquaint us of intruders.
I know where I am now. Paul, this is a spaceship.
This is a spaceship. What are they?
We are the guardians of the human race.
Like the Ark?
The Ark?
Yeah, Noah's Ark.
Strange disease, a fever, is spreading among the Monoids.
A fever brought by these strangers. Listen to us. Take them away.
To find the prisoner guilty or not guilty.
Trust me, help me to find a new cure.
You obey.
The Monoid plan to destroy the Ark and everything in it.
That will be the end of all human existence.
The Ark is a First Doctor story, much maligned in many circles, for as we reach the end of the DVD availability, we really do start getting some discs that a lot of people could well do without. This isn't one of them. Stop thinking badly about the Ark. Yes, I know you're doing it. Stop it. It's very good. It's black and white. It's a piece of history. It's a survivor from a season that wasn't particularly good. The ratings were falling. Good lord, they were down to nearly 10 million. Actually, that is an exaggeration, but they had fallen significantly. There were rumblings of discontent amongst the production crew. Barbara and Ian had left. Stephen was now with the crew. Dodo had just joined and she wouldn't stay for too long. But more importantly, this is a story of two halves, is the best way of putting it. We'd had two-part stories, and you can look at this as if it's two-part stories, if you really want to. Also, from our 2011 standpoint, it's very easy to just retcon the whole thing and shoehorn it into modern Doctor Who mythology. Let me explain. The story itself takes place on board a spaceship, a generational spaceship containing the last remnants of human history. All life has been stored and shrunk and exists here in this enormous spaceship, a lot like Starship UK. This spaceship is surviving, running away from the end of the Earth. It's not the spaceship on the way to Utopia. That would be much later. But this takes place at almost exactly the same time as the Christopher Eccleston story, The End of the World. And at one point, you actually see the end of the world on a monitor screen. So is that being relayed from platform? We see it can't be, but that's what we want to do. We're Doctor Who fans, we want to join them together. We see the Earth die screaming in fire, here, back in the 60s, not just in 2005. No, the reason that this story is considerably maligned is that it has, well, crap monsters. Really bad monsters. The Monoids. You don't know if they're clothes they're wearing or whether it's what they're supposed to look like. For the first two stories, they're mute. Let me describe them for you, as is after all an audio medium. They're human-shaped, surprisingly, and have, well, what could be described as an overly long Beatles wig. Think Chekhov, but longer. You can't see, on a human, eyes or a nose or any features, and where there would be a mouth is a single eye. In reality, of course, it's the mouth of the actor, and in the mouth of the actor is a ping-pong ball with an eye drawn on it, capable of looking left and right, wherever the actor's tongue pushed it. They look a little Ogron-like, but not overly. Not particularly exciting, with big, flappy, pointless feet. They couldn't run. Now it says that they came to Earth because of some great disaster. And of course, you want to think, Time War, because the Time War had, after all, just started, because the chase was only a few stories earlier. You see, you just can't help it. You want to place this in Doctor Who mythology, but don't. You're wasting your time, and it's the sort of thing you can discuss in a pub with a friend. Although the Monoids look awful, the thing that's worthy of this story, apart from the big ideas, which I'll come to in a moment, is some of the design. Yes, in the future everyone seems to walk around in togas, but they might. No, it's the zoo scenes. The scenes with the elephants and the animals, where they've bizarrely got actual animals in. They're mainly shot on film, which does make them look so much better. But like I said, it's the big ideas, the big sci-fi, cliched ideas, mainly derived from H.G. Wells, and again, that's something I'll go into in a moment, because that's discussed at great length on the disc as well. For those of you familiar with H.G. Wells' work and the Ark, you can probably spot the similarities straight away. The common cold, it's what kills the Martians. It's what kills the Selenites on the moon. The fact that Dodo has a cold when she steps off the TARDIS. The two races, the monstrous Morlocks and the Eloi, could be the humans and the Monoids, if you really wanted to push it that far. Who's in control? Well, that's part of the two-part story. Although it's 4 parts, I'm splitting it into 2, so that's two parts, and shall I just move on? Probably. Another similarity, of course, with the time machine, as well as the whole Morlock-Eloi thing, is the statue, which is constantly referred to. But what I've done is I've talked about things in the story, not the actual story itself. Like I said, Dodo, Stephen and the Doctor step out of the TARDIS into what they think could be a zoo, but it's got a metal sky. It's got a vibrating floor, just like Starship UK. They're found by the Monoids, taken to control, which is a lot of people, human beings. Now, why the human beings have children on board is beyond me, because they are adults and they are the scientific elite, again in H.G. Wells' idea, controlling and looking after the rest of the human race who are all stored on downloadable data, again mentioned in Utopia. The cold spreads to the Monoids and to the humans, who have, of course, with this being millions of years in the future, absolutely no defence whatsoever against the common cold, which was apparently cured in the distant future of the 20th century. The Doctor gives completely inappropriate advice to anyone suffering from a cold to keep them warm. Yeah, if you're out there, don't do that. Make them cold. Balance the temperature. But you probably already know that. But it's at the end of part 2 that the story really kicks up a gear. You see, the Doctor is accused of trying to kill everyone because he's brought the common cold. The Doctor then has to cure the common cold, and when that happens, they can go home and leave. It's been a strange SF-type world. We've seen the end of the human race. The Doctor, Stephen and Dodo leave, and then comes the twist, the clever bit. They materialise again in exactly the same place, albeit not exactly the same place because they've moved right across the galaxy 700 years later, just in time to see the effects of what they've done 700 years earlier. That's the clever bit. That's the important timey-wimey aspect of this whole story. And that's where it gets good. Alright, it doesn't get brilliant. The Monoids have seized control. It's hardly exciting. They can now talk and all sound like Zippy, but there's a reason they sound like Zippy, because Roy Skeldon's doing the voice, which sadly is the same guy who was doing some of the Dalek voices, and they sound kind of the same. Not really worth going into right now. They've changed the giant statue from something to do with humanity to a huge giant monoid holding a ball. It's actually a little bit disturbing, but the monsters themselves still let it down. The most hilarious thing in this story is, of course, the high-security kitchen, which is 2 sets into 1. Except it's not. It was always the high-security kitchen all the way through all the scripts, apparently, which makes even less sense. I always just assumed they were pushed for space and time, but they're not. They just like having people, well, in a kitchen. There's some very nice video effects, instant mash turning into food and things like that. But it still doesn't make up for the fact that when they do reach the planet Refusis, which was where the ship was heading, the inhabitants are all invisible. Again, another H.G. Wells concept, the Invisible Man. Wells keeps creeping up quite a lot, and that's why, on this disc, you get a really good extra called All's Wells That Ends Wells. Yeah, not a great title, but quite a nice little 5-minute documentary. Actually, it's 13 minutes 14 seconds, but let's not go there. It deals with H.G. Wells and his effect on Doctor Who. Not just here, but of course in the story Time Lash, and in Doctor Who in general. It's really nicely done, and has of course Kim Newman in it. Hooray! We love Kim Newman. We always have loved Kim Newman. That was the Kim Newman dance. Perhaps I should move on from that. There are of course lots of references and clips from Time Lash, so I just thought you should be warned about that. You know, it's always important to be warned about Time Lash in any form. Other things on this disc consist, of course, of the commentary from Peter Purves and the director Michael Amson, and it's all moderated by good old Toby H. Actually, Toby does an extremely good job on this one, not exactly having to keep Peter Purves in line, but he does manage to keep things going and remind everyone of their facts. That man's mind is a steel trap when it comes to Doctor Who facts, after all. Another thing on the disc is the very nice, very short documentary about monsters who appear in Doctor Who just the once, mainly linked with the Monoids. This has got Jack Rayner appearing in it. Hello, Jack. Who's standing in front of an extremely nice painting of the Monoid statue. I wonder where she got that from, or if indeed who drew it. But by far the best thing on this whole DVD is the 20-minute documentary Riverside Story, where Peter Purves is taken back to the Riverside studio where so much of Doctor Who was shot. Peter then reminisces about the production process and pulls no punches when talking about his time on the show. It's really, really nice and really, really well worth looking at. It's lovely to see such an accomplished performer talking so openly about the programme. He'd make a great convention guest. And with that, I'll fade away, except to remind you that if you've got any questions for the podcasting panel at SoloCon, then please email me, and I will endeavour to read them out and answer them, i.e. me, at the convention podcast that'll be specially read out on the day, specially timed to coincide with Gallifrey. And remember, if you've enjoyed this podcast, you can donate to help keep the Tin Dog podcast running. Simply visit the standard website www.tin-dog.co.uk and click on the donate button at the top right hand side of the screen. So until next time, be seeing you.
This adventure continues in our next episode, Picnic on the Moon.
You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
City of Spires.
I think I'd better get out of here.
You, what's your business here?
Of course. You wouldn't recognise me.
For Scotland and freedom! Scotland and freedom! You know the drill. Women and children to be rounded up, but no man left alive.
Doesn't matter where it is or what period does it, there's always some tin pot tyrant ready to solve every problem with a gun.
What did you say?
Red Cap will know why you are here.
What are you? An English spy?
James Robert McCrimmon, son of Donald and a piper like his father. You served to the Laird Colin McLaren at Culloden.
Are you ready, boys?
I am a prisoner here, the same as you. Not a Red Cap, mind, he's just my jailer. I was sent here by the overlord he serves.
Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.